Hey guys, it's Shaniqua, aka Her Name Is Me. Welcome back to my channel. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. Thank you for tuning in for this video. So I'm going to tell you guys about my birth story and the fact that I had to get an emergency C-section. Yes, an emergency C-section at the last minute, but we're going to get into that more later. I'm doing this because I never did a video. When I was pregnant with Naylah, I fell off the face of social media. Like, I was tired all the time, especially my first trimester. I was tired all the time and hungry all the time. So all I did was pretty much eat and sleep and go to work. So I never really updated you guys on that, and I'm also doing this for Naylah for when she gets older, so I don't forget the details of her birth and of the story. By the time this video is up, she's going to be 2 years old, and I just thought, why not share this with you guys? So let's get into it. So as far as pregnancy goes, I would say I had a great pregnancy with Naylah. I didn't have any morning sickness or anything like that. My cravings, I didn't have a lot of cravings. I just wanted fried rice and fries all the time, although I don't know if that was pregnancy or just me, because I love fries. But I did eat and sleep a lot during my first trimester, especially through my whole pregnancy period. I was tired. It got better from the second and third trimester, but my first trimester, I mean, everywhere you saw me, I was sleeping, like sleep, out cold, anywhere. But other than that, I had a great pregnancy. My last week of pregnancy, I did have to get on bed rest. I actually worked up till that week. I wanted to work my whole pregnancy, but I went to the doctor because my feet were so swollen I could not get my shoes on. And my first lady is like, you need to go to the doctors. You need to just go make sure that nothing is wrong with you. You need to go make sure that you're okay. But for me, I mean, it was my first pregnancy. I just thought, hey, I'm just having swelling, because, you know, everyone talks about how their feet are swollen during pregnancy. So I thought it was normal. Now, mind you, I don't think I was making it any better, because while I worked at a school, and it was hot in the school all the time, and I was walking my pregnant self all around the school with no water, trying to walk my baby out. Shouldn't have been doing that too much, but I also didn't want to just sit at home. I wanted to make as much money as I could before my daughter came, because I knew I would be staying home with my daughter. So, but the last week, my doctor was pretty much like, you need to be on bed rest. So I was on bed rest for the last week of my pregnancy, and I did not have preeclampsia, although I did have one of the symptoms of preeclampsia. But I didn't. I think you have to have 3 to be diagnosed, and only had 1. So, and that actually, the swelling stopped once I laid on my left side. I guess they said it's better to lay on your left side because it helps oxygen flow through your body or whatever. So Naylah was also a week overdue, which, funny story, so her due date was February 16th, but we actually got an early ultrasound at a different doctor than my own doctor, and they actually gave me February 16th as our due date, which is the day she was born. So technically, as far as my doctors were concerned, she was a week late, but as far as the other doctors, she was right on time. I mean, the day of, like, spot on. So anyway, she was a week overdue technically, but she was also on time. So it's the morning of the 16th, I guess. Yes, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. David was knocked out, and I was having contractions, which I hadn't had contractions before. So, but I also didn't want them to be Braxton Hicks, because, like I said, I never had contractions. I never had Braxton Hicks, so I didn't know the difference between the two. I didn't know if it was normal or if it wasn't normal. So I'm pacing back and forth, and normally David wakes up, I mean, out of his sleep, like, Shay, are you okay? Like, are you good? Like, is the baby good? You know, all of that. But it just so happened that this day he did not wake his butt up at all, and I'm just pacing back and forth, and I mean, they hurt. Contractions hurt, but I didn't want to wake up David because I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually in labor or not, because when we went to the doctor earlier, I was only 3 centimeters dilated, and we actually had to go to the doctor because they thought I was leaking fluid. This was before this night. I actually was about to induce my labor, just in case, because they don't want to play around if you are leaking fluid. So they had me admitted to the hospital and everything, and we were thinking, this is baby day, we're gonna have the baby. I can't really remember what day this was. I'm sure it'll come up on my Facebook stories or something like that, but I don't remember what day that was. But I actually wasn't leaking fluid, so they let me go home. Bummer. But then, so I tried to lay back down in the bed, and when I laid back down, as soon as I laid down, I heard this pop noise, and I still don't know what it was. And I mean, the contractions just intensify. I mean, they was not playing. I could not lay down. I was just like, oh my goodness, I have to wake David up because this must be it. Like, I must be in labor. So I wake David up. I'm like, boo, I'm having contractions. I don't know if this is, maybe we should call somebody to see if I need to go to the hospital to see if this is actually the baby coming, because they end up asking me, did my water break, which my water hadn't broken. And so when we got to the hospital, I was still 3 centimeters dilated, and technically it's not active labor, so normally they would send you home, but I would have been so upset if they would have sent me home. They did not send me home, but I mean, the contractions literally just kept going. So I stayed at 3 for the longest. I didn't want any meds at first, but by the time when we got in there, I mean, it just they put me in the hot bath, and that helped for a little bit, but once that wore off, I mean, it seemed like my contractions went to 10 now. Like, they might have been like at actually it went to like 20. They might have been at like a 7 before I got in the bath, but after I got out of the bath, it was like a 20. So I'm just like, give me this medicine, you know, I want the epidural. Give me the epidural. Give me the epidural. Give me the epidural. I ain't playing. Give me the epidural. I'm like, I don't care what you talking about, nurse or doctor. Give me the epidural. I don't care what I said when I came in here. Although I never told them I didn't want meds. Although I did tell them I wanted to try to do natural. I said try. I did not say I was going to do it. That was too much. I'm not doing that. Next time I go up in there, give me the epidural right off the bat. But I didn't get the epidural till I was 8 centimeters dilated. 8 freaking centimeters dilated. I might as well went the whole way, but although I'm glad I didn't. Here's the reason. So I'm at 8 centimeters dilated. They gave me the epidural, and at this point, I'm just like laid back. I'm chilling because I just don't feel anything. The doctor, my husband was laughing at me because one of the nurses was trying to make jokes with me, and I was just like, I wasn't mean to anybody, but I'm just like, you got to be quiet. Like, no. And then my sister was also trying to like encourage me and things like that, and I appreciate the encouragement, but I was just like, T, you got to be quiet. Just be quiet, because I couldn't take it. I was hurting. I would try to like stretch out to see if that would help the contractions. That didn't help, so I tried to curl back into a ball, but then that still didn't help either. But by the time when I got the epidural, the doctor asked me what was my pain on a scale, and I told him heaven. And I told him he was my best friend. Yes, and David was like, you clearly are a different person, because I was laying down, I took a nap, but then I got to 9.5 centimeters dilated. They were trying to turn Naylah, but she would not turn. She was faced the opposite way. I think they want them facing the floor, but she was actually looking up to the ceiling. So they were trying to turn her, so they put this little egg in between your legs to try to flip the baby, and it wasn't working. They also couldn't break my water because she was too far down. So at this point, her heart rate drops, and the nurses come and they grab the doctor, because I also had a midwife. They grab the doctor, and the doctor's like, hey, if her heart rate drops one more time, we're going to have to take you into emergency C-section. As soon as he said that, her heart rate dropped again, and they just sprung into action. I mean, like, they just was gone. They told David he probably couldn't come in. They would let him know if he could come in, which I was sad about, but I was chilling. Like, I was not scared. Most people would be scared in that situation, but I knew that my daughter would be okay. I knew that I was going to have a baby. So I'm chilling. They got me back to the emergency C-section, and they're like, can you feel this? He told him to top off my epidural, and they're like, can you feel this? And I'm like, no, I can't feel it. So then they're like, okay, the dad can come in. Now, at first I was upset, like, why couldn't my husband come in? But then I thought about the fact, if I did not have that epidural and they had to give me an emergency C-section without any medication, that would have been some screams from the pits. I mean, that would have freaked anybody out. It freaked me out. But so that's why I'm assuming that's the reason that they would not let him come in at first. So he had took off all his clothes and all of that. I didn't know this until after he took off all his clothes and all of that. And then they come in and say, you can come back here. She's getting ready to be pulled out. And so he's trying to hurry up and get his stuff on, because he was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be here to meet my baby when she come out. So he comes in, they pull her out. I did not cry, guys. I did not cry at all until I heard her cry. And when I heard her cry, I just bawled. And I don't know why. I just, I guess it was that motherly instinct. I don't know. It's just that moment. I can't really explain it. When you hear your child cry for the first time, it was just like, oh my goodness, this baby is here and I'm her mom. And oh my goodness, it just was an unreal feeling. So yeah, so I had an emergency C-section. The doctor they told me that, one of my midwives told me that my baby would be 6 pounds probably. Naylah came out 8 pounds and 2 ounces. Big old baby. The doctors were all, woo, yeah, she's a big girl. And then they showed David my insides, and I'll put a clip up. Hopefully I can find it, a clip up of that. The doctor was like, is this okay? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead, whatever. So the doctors and everyone were telling me how great of a job I did and all this stuff. And the doctor was like, you were the most calm person I have ever seen in an emergency C-section. I mean, you didn't bat an eye. Like, he was just in shock at how calm I was. Well, I mean, personally, I was not afraid, and people may have been like, I would have been scared, my baby. But for me, I knew that God was not going to let anything happen to my daughter. He doesn't give good gifts. And I know there are a lot of people who lose their babies, but I just believed that my daughter would be okay. And so I didn't get scared. And like I said, I didn't cry, because normally people will cry, but I didn't cry until I heard her cry for the first time. And then I was in the hospital for 2 days, but they're supposed to keep you for 3 days. And that first night, it was just so strange. Every little noise Naylah made, me and David were just like, oh, is she okay? How she's doing? And there are things I feel like doctors should let you know, inform you of, before you have this baby. Because my daughter, okay, I knew she was gonna poop something black, but there was one point where David was changing her, or I was changing her, I don't really remember, but she started throwing up this black stuff, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with my baby? What is this coming out of her mouth? What is going on? And they're like, oh, that's normal. So they just turned around, pat her back, and but I'm just like, okay, that's something you should have told me, because that's scary for a parent. You got black stuff. I mean, normally if I had black stuff coming out of my mouth, it's a problem, It looks like, it didn't look like poop, but it kind of looked like poop. And I didn't poop while I was having her. Well, it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because she didn't come out of my vajayjay. She came out of my stomach. Um, and then, so we went home early. Like I said, they were supposed to keep me for 3 days. They only kept me for 2 days. And when I got home, it wasn't the first day, but it was the day after. So when the next day the baby comes out of the house, my doctor's office wanted to do a checkup on her. So we went to that checkup, and she was a little underweight, so we had to wake her up and stuff like that. She couldn't latch properly. And so they told me if there were any more problems, to go to the emergency room or whatever. So that night or the next day, I took off Naylah's diaper and she had blood in it. And I'm like, oh no, what is wrong with my baby? She has blood in her diaper. Like, what is going on? So we called the emergency room, or we called the hospital, like, should we bring her in? And they asked about her poop and her pee. And a baby is supposed to have 6 pee diapers in 24 hours and at least 1 poopy diaper in 24 hours. I did not know that at the time. My baby only had 1 pee diaper in 24 hours, and she did not poop. I'm like, David, we need to take her to the hospital. We gotta go. She's 5 days old, mind you, 5 days old. I'm like, we gotta go. We gotta take her to the hospital. So I was just like, we gotta go to the hospital because I have to make sure there's nothing wrong with my daughter. So our hospital does not emit pediatrics because they can't do it. So we had to drive 30 minutes to Kalamazoo, which is the nearest hospital that takes pediatrics. And my first thought was like, we're going to an emergency room, all these germs, it's February, people still got flu and all of that. I'm like, I do not want my baby sitting in this emergency room, because I have been to their emergency room before. And any emergency room, there's all types of germs. So I'm just like, I just hope they can get us through there quickly, because I don't want my baby to catch anything. So as soon as we got in there, they were like, oh, she's 5 days old. Y'all going straight to the back. They took us straight to the back, got us checked out, got her checked out and everything, and got her a room in the emergency part, and started to do what they needed to do. And they were asking us questions like, has she peed or pooped? And she has what's called Mongolian spots, which I don't know if you know what they are, but they are common in African American babies and Asian babies when they're first born, on their backs, normally around their butt area. And Naylah has one here. You guys may have seen it in a picture or something, but it's like a dark mark. It kind of looks like a bruise. And our doctor was like, making sure we knew what that was, because she was like, if you go to somebody, they could think it's a bruise and they could possibly call Child Protective Services on you. So when we were there, the lady was like, they tried to say it like nonchalant, like, yeah, I see she has a bruise. She didn't necessarily say it to me. She said it to the other nurse. And I don't know if David heard her or not, but I was just like, no, those are Mongolian spots. That is not a bruise on my 5-day-old baby. Wouldn't be a bruise on my baby, period, like that. I'm not abusive. Which, they don't know. They're just doing their job. But still, I had to make sure I let them know that it's not a bruise on my baby. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I do see that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, cool. She got some on her butt, too. I just want you to know that that is not a bruise. So anyway, now, again, I'm 5 days postpartum. Just had a baby, right? And I don't know if you've ever had a baby, but your emotions and just everything is everywhere. And I just started crying. First of all, I'm hungry, and I just started crying out of nowhere. And the nurses think that it's because of Naylah, but again, I was not afraid for Naylah. I knew something was wrong, and we had to get her to the hospital to see what was wrong, but I did not think that anything was going to happen to my daughter. So I wasn't crying because of this emergency. But anyway, they got me a sandwich and stuff like that, like, oh, it's gonna be okay, she's gonna be all right, or whatever. And at this time, they were basically saying that she was probably dehydrated, and they gave her, I don't know what they're called, some type of fluid that they give the babies, and I can't really remember what it's called, something ball. But anyway, they give her this fluid and immediately she shoots out a bunch of poop. And we were just cheering like, yay, she pooped. Yes, she pooped. Good job, Naylah. But I'm still crying like, oh my goodness. But again, I wasn't crying. And that was funny to me because I'm normally pretty in control of my emotions, and I just was not. David would come home some days and I would just be crying. I wouldn't know why I was crying. Like, nothing's wrong with me. I'm not sad. I'm fine. I'm just crying. But anyway, so they got me a sandwich and some juice, and then they got me a room. They were so awesome. They got us a room with a bed. They were like, you're 5 days post C-section. We need you to lay down. And they got me a pump. Now, I actually was able to get a pump through my insurance, but when David went to try to go pick up the pump, they were not available until Monday. And this was, I think, either Friday night or Saturday night. I think it was Saturday that we went to the hospital. So I wasn't going to be able to get a pump until Monday. And they asked me about it. They were like, they didn't give you a pump at your other hospital? Like, what? Because I was breastfeeding, and one of the things, Naylah was underweight, so I needed to pump in order to help my milk come in or whatever. So I'm like, no. So they brought a pump to my room, and that was the first breast milk really that Naylah that I was able to see her really intake. And at the other hospital they gave me what's called the nipple shield. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's this plastic thing that you put onto your nipple to help your baby latch. And I thought it was working, but come to find out later, it really wasn't helping her. It wasn't helping her latch. It actually was hindering her latch. But anyway, so they had a lactation specialist come talk to me and everything to help me, again, figure out or help Naylah latch better and all of that. But then they actually gave me a pump there at the hospital. I was so grateful because, again, I wouldn't have been able to get one until Monday, and it was Saturday. And the funny thing is, the same night that I was in the hospital is the same night that the shooter was loose in Kalamazoo. So we saw the nurse closing the windows and stuff like that, and then we were thinking, like, what is she closing the windows for? But we found out later that it was because there was a shooter who actually ended up killing, I don't know if it was like 5 people in Kalamazoo, but yeah. But they try to keep that on hush in the hospital, and I think everything was locked down, but we just didn't know it, which, I was glad we didn't know that. But anyway, Naylah was feeling better. You could tell she was starting to pee and she was starting to poop. So I would actually pump and give her my milk, but I also supplemented her milk while we were at the hospital, just to make sure that she was able to get what she needed. Because I am pro breastfeeding, but I feel like a fed baby is a fed baby. If you cannot breastfeed or whatever, feed your baby. It don't matter, like, no, I didn't want Naylah to have formula, but that's all she could have. She couldn't get from me, and I wasn't producing enough milk. When you have a C-section, it actually takes longer for your milk to come in because your baby didn't go through the birth canal, which triggers your body to start producing milk, and it takes longer for you again to produce milk. So not only was she having a hard time latching, but my milk wasn't coming in because I had a C-section. So I was just like, my baby needs to eat, whatever. But yeah, so we were in the hospital, I think, for a couple of days. But after that, everything was fine. They gave us this little tube because I didn't want Naylah drinking any bottles yet because I didn't want her to confuse. She was already having a hard time latching, so I didn't want her to confuse the different nipples and things like that. So we would feed her from a little tube. David was way better at it than me. So most of the time I would let him do it. Unless he was at work, then I would do it, of course. But David was like, he was running back and forth from work and all of that, and he was just great. My first lady was like, she was shocked because I was not being mean to David. Like, I guess I've heard stories of most women being like, you did this to me. But I just feel like, look, I did this to you. We did this to each other. You didn't do this by yourself. I knew what I was getting into. and I was ready to get into it, and we had a lot of practice. So so I just was like, I'm not mean to my husband on a regular basis. I'm not gonna be mean to him now, but he was just so supportive throughout the whole pregnancy and even post C-section. And I would tell you, those contractions hurt so bad. But it's really true when they talk about you do not remember. You don't remember the pain after. Even though I had a C-section, they said I recovered pretty quickly. I actually went home. I mean, it was just a lot of things I could have went ballistic about when having my first baby and having my baby. So they send you home with pain medicine. And David actually had to actually go to work, so I wasn't able to get my pain medicine for 2 hours once I got home. And oh my goodness, y'all, like I was crying. Those contractions when your vagina and your uterus is trying to go, when your uterus is trying to come back down, they hurt so bad. It hurt worse than my incision. It hurt worse than my incision. And that's another thing. The hospital was supposed to give me one of those things that hold you in, hold your stomach in, hold your C-section in place. And they would not give me it. Talking about all of our doctors don't recommend it, but I'll see. She never said anything else about it. And I didn't know, so I didn't say anything. But next time, you best believe you're going to be giving me one of them. Or you're going to give me one. That's it. So I was actually in labor for technically 11 hours. I think, 11 hours from the time it started. Naylah was born at 10:24 on February 16th, 2016. And she weighed 8 pounds, 2 ounces. And I have just really enjoyed motherhood. She's 2 years old now, and I know a lot of parents are like, oh my goodness, I wish my baby was small again. But I really don't. I don't wish she was small again. I'm enjoying, not that I'm not going to be excited for another small baby, but I enjoy all the stages of motherhood, all the stages of seeing her grow. Like, she amazes me every day at the things that she is learning, the things she's accomplishing. And sometimes I'm just so shocked at how quickly she grabs onto things. But yeah, that is my pregnancy story. I may have missed some of the details. I hope I didn't. If I did, maybe I'll come around and do another video. But yeah, say happy birthday to Naylah. It is her 2nd birthday. And yeah, that is all. Maybe if you guys want me to, maybe I'll do a video with David so you guys can see his experience. Or would you want me to do that? I don't know. But if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave questions or comments in the comment section, and don't forget to hit that bell button so that you won't miss any of my videos. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.